I never thought I'd share this with anyone, but what happened that night still haunts me. I've been working as a night bus driver for almost 10 years, and I've seen it all. Strange passengers, fights, people sneaking on without paying. But nothing, absolutely nothing, compares to what happened that night. It was a regular shift, one of those that starts around 10 p.m. and ends at 5 a.m. The route was the longest in the city, running through urban areas before heading into more isolated stretches. It was almost 1 a.m. when I stopped at a remote bus stop in the middle of nowhere and saw a woman standing there, alone. She was completely still, with no luggage or jacket, which was odd since it was freezing that night. When I stopped, she boarded without saying a word. She just nodded in acknowledgement and walked straight to the back of the bus. Something about her was unsettling. She was wearing a light dress, almost vintage, like something out of another time. But what unnerved me the most was her silence. She didn't ask any questions, didn't use her phone, didn't even glance out the window. She just sat there, in the last seat, staring straight ahead. Something about it gave me chills. I can't explain why, but it just felt wrong. I kept driving, trying not to think too much about the woman. It wasn't unusual to have strange passengers at that hour, especially at more remote stops. But as I drove down the deserted road, something made me glance at the rearview mirror. It was instinctive, like my body was trying to confirm she was still there. And she was. But now, she wasn't looking ahead anymore. Her eyes were fixed on me. It wasn't a casual glance, the kind you catch by accident. It was intense, direct, like she had been watching me for a while, and I'd just noticed. A shiver ran down my spine, and I quickly focused back on the road. I thought about stopping and asking if she was okay, but something held me back. You know that feeling when you just know something is wrong and decide it's best not to mess with it? That's exactly how I felt. I kept driving, convincing myself it was all in my head. About 15 minutes later, I arrived at the next stop. It was just as deserted as the last one, surrounded by trees and complete darkness. I stopped, opened the door, but no one got on or off. I glanced in the rearview mirror again, expecting her to get up and leave, but she didn't move. She just sat there, still staring at me with that unsettling gaze. I closed the door and continued the route, but the uneasiness only grew worse. I tried to distract myself by turning on the radio, but there was no signal in that area. All I could hear was the sound of the engine and the tires on the road. Every now and then, I glanced at the mirror, and she was always in the same spot, in the same position, with that unblinking stare. The road grew darker as we moved farther from the city, and everything around seemed dead. No movement, no life. Each time I looked, it felt like her eyes were burning a hole into the back of my head. When we reached the final stop of the route, I decided I couldn't ignore it anymore. I stopped the bus, opened the door, and waited. No one got on or off. I turned around in my seat to look at her directly, but the seat was empty. I can't describe what I felt in that moment. It wasn't just shock. It was a cold panic that froze me in place. My mind tried to find a logical explanation. Maybe she had slipped off without me noticing. But how, when I had been watching her so closely? The silence inside the bus was almost unbearable, and even the air felt heavier. Still trembling, I got up from my seat and walked to the back of the bus. I looked at the seat where she had been sitting, and it was as if she had never been there. No sign, nothing out of place. The seat was cold, as if no one had sat there all night. I ran my hand over it, hoping to find some evidence, a strand of hair, anything, but there was nothing. At that moment, I started to question my sanity. Could I have been so tired that I imagined it all? But it didn't make sense because I knew what I saw. I went back to the driver's seat, but something in me told me it wasn't a good idea to keep going alone on that road. I grabbed my radio to contact dispatch, but all I got was static. The feeling of being watched didn't go away, even though the bus was empty. That's when I noticed something in the rearview mirror. On the back window, there was a faint mark, like a hand pressed against the glass, from the inside. I knew for a fact it hadn't been there before. My heart raced, and for the first time in years, I seriously thought about abandoning the bus and running down the road. I knew I couldn't just leave the bus, but my hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip the wheel when I got back to my seat. I decided to finish the route as quickly as possible and put the whole thing behind me. But the farther I drove, the worse it got. I started hearing noises coming from the back of the bus. They weren't clear sounds like footsteps or voices, but a low murmuring, or maybe something scraping along the floor. I kept glancing in the mirror but saw nothing. Yet, the sounds continued. At one point, I couldn't take it anymore and yelled out loud, "Is someone there?" My voice echoed through the empty bus, but there was no reply. Even so, the murmuring stopped for a moment, which was almost more terrifying than hearing it. I tried to focus on the road again, but then I saw it. In the rearview mirror, something or someone darted down the aisle. It was too fast to make out clearly, but it looked like a shadow. I don't think I've ever been more scared in my life. I slammed on the brakes so hard that the bus almost skidded off the road. The engine was still running, but inside, the silence was deafening. My hands were sweating, and my heart felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. For a second, I seriously thought about running out of the bus. But what would I do alone in the middle of nowhere? I grabbed a flashlight I kept next to my seat and decided to check. The beam of light shook as much as my hands as I walked down the empty aisle. The seats were exactly as I'd left them before, nothing out of place. But the feeling of being watched was unbearable. When I reached the back of the bus, I stopped. The light from the flashlight fell to the floor, and I saw marks. They looked like footprints, but not from shoes. They were lighter, like bare feet, but the shape was wrong, elongated in a way that didn't look human. The strangest thing was that the prints stopped right there, as if whoever made them had just vanished into thin air. My body froze. I didn't want to turn around because I felt that if I did, something would be right behind me. Somehow, I forced myself to move and ran back to the driver's seat. As soon as I sat down, I turned the key and hit the gas, wanting to get out of there as quickly as possible. But as the bus picked up speed, something felt off. The air inside got heavy again, almost suffocating. I don't know why, but something made me glance at the rearview mirror one last time. And there she was, sitting in the same seat as before, staring at me with those unblinking eyes. I couldn't look away for a few seconds, frozen in terror. When I finally managed to tear my eyes away, I focused on the road, refusing to check the mirror again. It was only a few minutes to the final stop, and all I could think about was finishing the route and getting off the bus. When I finally pulled up to the last stop, I sat there, waiting for something to happen. I opened the door, turned off the engine, and waited. Nothing. Gathering every bit of courage I had, I turned to look at the back of the bus one last time, and of course, the seat was empty. No sign of her, no footprints, nothing. Everything was exactly as it should have been. That's when I realized the worst part. When I reviewed my log, everything made sense, or worse, nothing made sense. No passenger had been scheduled to board at that remote stop. I knew that because I ran the same route every night and was familiar with every stop and regular passenger. But that night, no one was supposed to be there. I stared at the log for what felt like forever, trying to understand how that was possible. The only conclusion my exhausted mind could reach was that something beyond explanation had happened. Since that night, I haven't seen anything like it again, but I also can't drive without that nagging feeling of being watched. No matter how much I try to forget, the details keep coming back. Her unblinking stare, the marks on the window, the strange footprints. I've thought about switching to a different shift, but the fear of being called crazy has kept me silent. To this day, I'm the only one who knows what happened on that route, and honestly, I'd rather it stay that way. I finished that shift, but a part of me never left that bus. Have you ever felt like you should just drop everything and leave? That's exactly how I felt that night, but unfortunately, I ignored my gut. It was just another shift as a food delivery driver trying to make some extra cash to pay overdue bills. The order seemed normal, one large pizza with a soda, and the address was at the end of a cul-de-sac on the outskirts of town. Nothing unusual until I turned down the street. It was an eerie place. All the houses looked fine, except for the last one at the very end. That house was a wreck, overgrown grass, broken windows, and a flickering porch light that felt straight out of a horror movie. Right then, I started questioning whether I'd written down the wrong address. I parked the car and checked the order again. The address matched. I looked around, but the street was deserted. The only sound was the wind rustling through the trees. Grabbing the food bag, I walked up to the porch and knocked on the door. Nothing. I waited for a bit and knocked again. Still nothing. At that point, I was ready to leave when I heard the lock shift. The door opened just a crack, and a man appeared. I couldn't see much of his face. He stayed in the shadows. His voice was firm but quiet, almost a whisper. He said, "Leave the food on the ground." Honestly, it was strange, but I set the bag down, took a step back, and waited for some kind of acknowledgement or tip. Nothing. He just shut the door with a loud thud. Up to that point, I figured it was just another odd customer. When I got back to my car, I felt immediate relief, but as I opened the door, something caught my attention in the rearview mirror. For a second, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, but no. There was someone crouched near my back tires. My heart started pounding. It was hard to tell who or what it was, but the way they were positioned sent a chill down my spine. They looked like they were hiding, waiting for me not to notice. My first instinct was to lock the doors and turn on the interior lights to get a better look, but that just made things worse. When the lights came on, they vanished. Not like they ran off, it was too quick for that. They just disappeared. I looked all around and couldn't see anyone. My mind started racing. Should I get out of the car to check? Call the police? But honestly, all I wanted to do was get the hell out of there. I started the engine, and as I reversed, I felt a slight bump, like I'd run over something. My stomach dropped. I checked the mirror again, expecting to see an animal or some object behind me, but there was nothing. Absolutely nothing. The ground was clear. I hit the gas and sped off, my hands shaking on the wheel, heart pounding like crazy. As I turned the corner, I glanced in the mirror one last time. I swear there was someone standing on the porch of that house, just watching as I drove away. When I got home, I was still shaking. I practically threw the car into the driveway and ran inside, locking every door and window like that would somehow keep me safe. I sat on the couch, trying to process everything, but it was all a blur. My heart was still racing so fast I could barely think straight. I grabbed my phone to call someone, anyone, but what I saw on the screen made me drop it instantly. The delivery app was open, showing a new order, but I hadn't accepted anything. The address? It was the same house at the cul-de-sac. The notification sat there, blinking on the screen like it was mocking me. I knew it couldn't be a coincidence. I deleted the app immediately, but that didn't make the fear go away. That metallic smell I noticed earlier, it was back, stronger this time. It felt like it had followed me home, like it was part of the whole thing. I started feeling like someone was watching me. You know that feeling? Like no matter how much you look around, you can't see anything, but you know you're not alone. Every sound felt amplified. The creaking wood, the wind outside, it all started sounding like footsteps. I went to the kitchen, thinking maybe a glass of water would calm me down, but my hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the glass. The silence in the house was suffocating, like something was waiting. Just as I turned to leave, I heard a noise from the garage. It was faint, but distinct, like someone fiddling with the car door. My heart was racing again, and for a moment I thought about ignoring it. But honestly, Curiosity and the fear of someone breaking into my house won out. I grabbed the first thing I could find, a baseball bat I kept in the corner of the living room, and walked slowly toward the garage, trying not to make a sound. When I opened the door leading to the garage, everything was dark. The only light came from the small window on the garage door, casting strange shadows on the floor. My car was there, parked, seemingly untouched. But as I got closer, I noticed something that shouldn't have been there. The delivery bag. The same one I'd left on that house's porch was now sitting on the passenger seat, open, with the food untouched. When I saw that bag in the car, my body froze. It wasn't possible. I clearly remembered leaving it on that porch. My first thought was that someone had gotten into the car and put it there, but how? And why? I approached slowly, trying to ignore the overwhelming feeling that something was terribly wrong. I opened the car door, and that metallic smell hit me again, even stronger this time. It was almost unbearable. At the bottom of the bag, I saw something else, a folded piece of paper. With trembling hands, I picked up the paper and unfolded it. It was a note, written in messy, uneven letters that looked like someone had pressed down too hard. The message read, "You shouldn't have left so soon." I dropped the paper like it was on fire. None of this made sense. The air felt heavy, like something invisible was pressing down on my chest. I slammed the car door shut and ran back inside the house, locking the garage door behind me. My instincts screamed not to look back, but before I shut the door, I saw it through the garage window, a figure standing in the middle of the street, staring directly at my house. I slammed the door and ran to the living room, my mind spinning. I thought about calling the police, but what would I even tell them? Someone left a bag in my car and is now standing in the street. It sounded insane. As I stood there trying to think, the lights in the house started flickering. At first, I thought it was a power issue, but when I looked outside, all the other houses on the street still had steady lights. It was just mine. The fear was suffocating. Then came the knock. 3 loud, deliberate knocks on the front door. I froze in place. The knocks came again, louder this time, echoing through the house. My breathing quickened as I grabbed the bat, forcing myself to move. I crept toward the door, and when I peeked through the peephole, there was no one there. The silence that followed was worse than the knocking. Just as I stepped back, the sound came again, but this time from the window next to me. I didn't dare look directly, but out of the corner of my eye, I saw a shadow move. My chest tightened as I turned off the lights and crouched behind the couch, hoping whoever or whatever it was wouldn't see me. I stayed there for what felt like hours. Eventually, I peeked over the couch and my heart sank. The window was open. I knew for a fact I had locked it. The curtain swayed slightly in the breeze. My first instinct was to run to my bedroom, lock the door, and hide, but then I smelled it again, that metallic odor, even stronger now. I turned toward the hallway leading to the bedrooms, and that's when I saw it. At the end of the hallway, crouched in the shadows, something was there. It didn't move, didn't make a sound, but I knew it was watching me. It didn't have eyes, didn't have a face, but I could feel its gaze. I froze, paralyzed with fear. Then it moved, not quickly, not slowly, but deliberately, like it wanted me to know it was coming closer. I bolted for the front door, fumbling with the lock as I heard heavy footsteps behind me. My hands were shaking so badly I almost couldn't get the door open. When it finally gave way, I stumbled outside and ran to my car. I didn't look back. I jumped in, started the engine, and drove off as fast as I could. As I sped down the street, I glanced in the rearview mirror one last time. The house stood there, dark and broken, just as before. But now, there was a figure standing on the porch, motionless, watching as I disappeared into the night. You know when everything goes wrong at home, and all you want to do is get away for a while? That's exactly what happened to me that night. I had an argument with my parents over something so trivial that I can't even remember it now, but at the time, It felt like the end of the world. So I decided to grab the car and drive aimlessly. I had just gotten my driver's license, and honestly, driving felt like the only way to clear my head. I took a back road near my neighborhood, one of those places you know no one else would be because it's empty and dark. At first, it was even relaxing. The silence, the sound of the tires on the asphalt. It was like the world had finally quieted down. But then I noticed, I wasn't as alone as I thought. In the rearview mirror, I spotted a car. An old sedan, maybe from the 90s, keeping a safe but steady distance behind me. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence. Maybe the driver lived in the area too. But something about it started to bother me. Every time I turned, it turned too. First a right, then a left, and there it was, keeping the same distance, not overtaking me or slowing down. The headlights didn't flash, and the car didn't speed up to catch me, but it was like it was copying me. I tried to rationalize it in my head. It's just another driver heading the same way, I thought. But my chest tightened. It was late, the road was deserted, and this didn't feel right. I decided to test my theory, even if it meant driving completely off course. I made a sudden turn down a road that was practically a dead end, one I only knew about because I'd been down there once before. It wasn't a route anyone would take if they were actually going somewhere. When I glanced in the rearview mirror, my heart sank. The sedan turned too. It didn't make sense. That car wasn't heading anywhere. It was just following me. I tried to stay calm and slowed down, hoping it would pass me, but it just slowed down too. That's when my mind started racing with all those stories you hear about kidnappings or crazy people on the news. My hands were sweating so much on the wheel that I could barely keep my grip. Everything inside me screamed to get out of there. I sped up and spotted a gas station in the distance. It wasn't much, but it was lit up and had just enough activity to make me feel a little safer. I pulled into the station and parked near the entrance, not at the pump, just to avoid any complications. The sedan followed, parking 3 spaces away from me. I couldn't see the driver clearly. The windows were tinted, and they never got out of the car. I walked into the station, trying to appear calm, but my whole body was trembling. That constant feeling of being watched was unbearable. The clerk, an older guy who looked bored out of his mind, seemed to pick up on my distress as soon as he saw me. I went straight to the counter and told the clerk I thought someone was following me. My voice was shaky and quiet, but he seemed to understand how serious I was. He looked outside through the gas station window and saw the sedan parked there. "Do you know that car?" he asked. I just shook my head. Then he grabbed the phone and started calling the police, saying it was better to be safe than sorry. While he did that, I stood there trying to catch my breath, but it was impossible to shake the feeling of those unseen eyes locked on me. The driver never got out of the car, never did anything overtly threatening, but the act of just sitting there and watching was terrifying. Minutes passed, and while we waited for the police to arrive, the clerk suggested I stay close to him behind the counter. That's when something even creepier happened. Out of nowhere, the sedan turned on its headlights, blinding me for a few seconds, and then turned them off. I don't know why, but that gave me chills. It wasn't a random action. It felt intentional, almost like a message saying, "I know where you are." When we finally heard the sirens approaching, the sedan started up its engine. The sound of it roaring to life was louder than I expected, or maybe my panic made it seem that way. It pulled away calmly, turning down a road that led further into the empty back roads instead of heading toward the main street. When the police arrived, I was already shaking uncontrollably, trying to explain what had happened. I told them everything, from the first moment I noticed the car to when it drove away. They were kind, but I could tell they didn't really believe it was anything serious. One of them even said it might have just been a nervous or distracted driver, but I knew better. There was something deliberate about it, something I couldn't explain. The way the sedan mirrored every turn, waited at the station without doing anything, and left just as help arrived. It couldn't have been a coincidence. The officers did a quick patrol of the surrounding streets, but as I expected, found nothing. One of them suggested I call someone to pick me up, as I was clearly too shaken to drive home alone. While I waited, I stood outside the station, still trembling. It was a strange mix of relief and paranoia. Every car that passed made my stomach drop, and I kept half expecting the same sedan to reappear. When my mom finally arrived, I jumped into the passenger seat and started crying. I couldn't even explain what had happened clearly, not without sounding crazy. But the truth is, even now, I can't shake the memory of those invisible eyes watching me from that car. When I got home that night, the feeling of being watched didn't go away. I locked all the doors, closed the curtains, and sat in my room, trying to convince myself I was safe. Even so, I found myself peeking out the window, expecting to see that car parked outside. The next day, there was no sign of anything unusual. I asked the police if they could track the car through local security cameras, but they said the footage was too blurry to make out a license plate or the driver. What haunts me most is the lack of any explanation. What did that person want? Why follow me for so long and then just vanish? They didn't try to approach me, didn't say a word, didn't do anything besides watch. That absence of logic makes it even scarier. It's been months since that night, but I still get anxious when I drive alone. Anytime a car stays behind me for too long, my heart races. And sometimes, I find myself checking the rearview mirror more than the road, half expecting that old sedan to appear again, reminding me that, on that night, someone chose to follow me, and I still don't know why. I've been driving for rideshare apps for a few years now, mostly during the night shifts. The roads are quieter and the pay tends to be better. But that specific night, I wish I had stayed home. It was around 2:30 a.m., and I was driving on a nearly deserted highway, heading to pick up a passenger in a more remote area. I was already thinking about wrapping up my shift after this trip when something made me slow down. A man was stumbling on the side of the road, frantically waving at me. At first, I thought he might have been in an accident or something like that. But as I got closer, I noticed something off. He looked extremely nervous, almost paranoid, constantly glancing over his shoulder as if someone was chasing him. Something about his behavior gave me an uneasy feeling. Instead of stopping right away, I rolled down the passenger window and called out from a safe distance, "Are you okay? Do you want me to call the police?" The moment I said that, the man froze for a second, his eyes wide with fear, and then, without saying a word, he bolted into the dense woods on the side of the highway like his life depended on it. I sat there for a few seconds, processing what had just happened. Everything inside me told me to just drive away, but part of me wanted to understand what was going on. The situation didn't make sense. If he needed help, why did he run off like that? And more importantly, who or what was he running from? Reluctantly, I pressed on. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. About 10 minutes later, as I approached the location to pick up my passenger, something even stranger happened. A black car with fully tinted windows drove by slowly in the opposite direction. There wasn't much traffic on that road, so the car immediately caught my attention. The way it moved, almost in slow motion, made it seem like the people inside were looking for something, or someone. My heart started pounding as I realized this could be connected to the man I had seen earlier. Instinctively, I slowed down and kept an eye on the rearview mirror, trying not to appear suspicious. As the car disappeared from my rearview mirror, I started to second-guess my decision not to stop and help the man. What if he was really in danger? But at the same time, everything about the situation screamed danger, and I couldn't ignore the fact that he ran into the forest like it was his only chance to survive. Still, the presence of that strange car left a knot in my stomach. I kept driving, but I was more alert than ever. When I finally arrived at the passenger's location, it was on a deserted, poorly lit street. For a brief moment, I felt relieved. I parked and waited, but no one showed up. The clock on my dashboard said I was on time, so I stayed there for a few minutes, glancing around and checking the app for messages or a cancellation. That's when I noticed something at the end of the street. 2 headlights slowly approaching. It was the same black car from earlier. My heart raced again as it crept past me, almost stopping for a moment, as if the occupants were sizing me up. When the car finally turned the corner and disappeared, I let out a shaky breath. I decided I wasn't going to wait any longer for the passenger. Something about this night was off, and the last thing I wanted was to get involved. Just as I put the car in gear to leave, the app pinged with a new ride request. The pickup location? The same area near the woods where I had seen the man running. A chill ran down my spine. That was too much of a coincidence to ignore. I declined the ride immediately, but it only made my anxiety worse. My mind started racing. Who was trying to get a ride from there? Was it the man, or something worse? As I drove home, I couldn't stop checking my rearview mirror, dreading that the black car might appear again. When I finally made it home, the feeling of being watched hadn't left me. The silence of my neighborhood, which usually brought me peace, felt oppressive that night. Before getting out of the car, I checked the rearview mirror one last time, hoping not to see anything unusual. Everything seemed normal, but the unease lingered. I rushed inside, locking all the doors and windows behind me. I collapsed onto the couch, trying to relax, but my mind kept replaying every detail of the night. As much as I tried to convince myself it was just paranoia, I couldn't ignore how strange everything had been. I decided to open the rideshare app to review my trips for the night, hoping something might explain what had happened. That's when I noticed something that sent a chill down my spine. The last ride request, the one near the woods, was still active, but the passenger had left a message. It wasn't long, just 2 words. "Help me." My stomach dropped, and I immediately closed the app. There was nothing more I could do. To this day, I can't explain what happened that night, but every time I'm out on the road, I stay vigilant, dreading the possibility of crossing paths with that black car, or worse, with the man who vanished into the woods. I usually don't share things like this, but what happened to me that night still gives me chills every time I think about it. It was late, almost midnight, and I was driving down a deserted stretch of highway with my 2-year-old daughter, Lily, sleeping in the back seat. We were heading home after visiting my mom, who lives a few hours away, and all I wanted was to get home. But then, Lily woke up and started complaining that she needed to use the bathroom. I knew I couldn't ignore it. When it comes to little kids, you don't mess around with that. I saw a sign for a rest area a few miles ahead and decided to stop. The rest area was darker than I expected. There wasn't another car in sight, except for one parked in the far corner of the lot. Its engine was running, a low hum filling the still air, but there didn't seem to be anyone inside. At that moment, I thought it might be someone resting or waiting for someone, so I didn't think much of it. I grabbed Lily and quickly headed to the restroom, trying to ignore the strange feeling growing inside me. The silence was oppressive, and the only sounds were the wind rustling through the trees and the crunch of our footsteps on the asphalt. When we returned to the car, that's when things started to get really strange. As I was strapping Lily back into her car seat, I noticed the headlights of that other car, the one parked in the corner, suddenly turned on. I froze for a second, trying to process what was happening. I still couldn't see anyone inside, but the thought that someone might have been watching us the whole time made my stomach churn. I locked the back door carefully, rushed to the driver's side, and got in the car as fast as I could. My hands were shaking as I fumbled to find the keys in my bag. As soon as I started the engine, I glanced in the rearview mirror, but the car stayed put. I decided not to stick around to find out what it meant. I pulled out of the parking lot as quickly as I could, but I tried to stay calm. I glanced at the rearview mirror again and saw the other car start to move, its headlights shining directly in my direction. It didn't speed up or make any sudden moves, but it was clear it was following me. My heart started pounding so hard it felt like it would burst. I made the first turn I could find, then another, trying to shake it off, but the car stayed right there, keeping the same distance. It didn't accelerate or slow down, like it just wanted me to know it was there. By this point, my mind was racing. I tried to think of every possibility. Could it just be a coincidence? Maybe someone heading the same way? But deep down, I knew it wasn't. The other car's behavior was far too strange to be random. I decided to test it and took an exit off the highway, a route that made no sense for anyone just traveling in the same direction. And the car followed me, taking the same turns, keeping the exact same distance. My chest was so tight I could barely breathe. Lily, thank God, had fallen back asleep, so at least she wasn't aware of what was happening. When I saw the sign for a toll plaza up ahead, I felt a tiny glimmer of hope. The toll booth was brightly lit, and I knew there would be workers or cameras there. I made sure to stay in the main lane where the lights were strongest. As I got closer, I checked the rearview mirror again, expecting to see the headlights right behind me. But they were gone. Just darkness on the highway. I was confused, almost in disbelief. How could a car just vanish? Even if they had turned around, I would have seen it. As much as that should have been a relief, the emptiness where those headlights had been felt even more unsettling. I passed through the toll plaza with a mix of relief and a fear I couldn't explain. Even though the car seemed to have disappeared, I couldn't calm down. My mind was stuck on what had just happened. How did it vanish like that? Did they know I was about to stop at the toll booth? Or maybe it was never a they to begin with. The questions only made me more anxious, and I barely noticed when Lily started stirring in the back seat, still half asleep. She mumbled something I didn't catch at first. It sounded like, "The light went away." I quickly glanced at her in the rearview mirror, but she had already drifted back to sleep. That sent a chill down my spine. There was no way she could have seen the car behind us. She'd been sleeping the whole time. Her words kept echoing in my head, even as the next toll plaza came into view, lighting up the road again. It was only after passing through, surrounded by the bright lights and other cars, that I began to feel the weight of the night lift slightly. But even now, as I write this, I can't shake the feeling that the car, or whatever it was following me for a reason I'll never understand.